Hi to everyone, and welcome to How to Make Money with AI 2025. So, for all those who don't know me, I'm Steffen Konrad. I'm the founder of AI Swiss and your host tonight. Whether you're here to build your first startup, raise funding, or just figure out how AI can help you quit your day job, sorry to say that, you're in the right place. In 2019, we kicked off this event, by the way, with 5 AI startups pitching live. Fast forward to today, and AI isn't just a buzzword anymore. That's it. It's reshaping industries, creating new opportunities, and yes, it makes some to millionaires and billionaires. Maybe you will be one of them. Tonight, we're sitting down with 4 people building, funding, and scaling companies in the middle of that storm. So what questions do we want to get answered tonight? What are the things you can take with you? First, I would like to understand how to go from idea to action. Learn how AI really fits into startup execution is the second. Third, the reality check. Discover which AI trends are delivering real value in the field, not just in theory. And fourth, of course, the money part. Learn what makes an AI startup fundable and what turns to investors off. So I would like to welcome, and you probably have seen them already here because the video is on, Dennis Teichmann, who's investor and who knows what makes investors lean in or walk away. I welcome Mario Assaf, co-founder of Optiverse. You might have heard it, it's a Swiss startup. He knows where AI meets real-world impact. Kashyap Achar, co-founder of Bezel, who is just out of Y-Combinator. He's currently in New York, but has been in San Francisco just a week before. And he is knowledgeable about how to grow fast and learn faster. And of course, David, it's a week since we last met. He's in the Applied AI modeling department of SaaS, who is helping customers use cutting-edge AI to drive real outcomes. So he's bringing in the reality check. Happy to have you all on board for this episode. And of course, right from the start, a question to all of you. What's one thing people say about AI that makes you roll your eyes every time? What's your experience?
I can answer real quick on this. I think not necessarily in terms of rolling eyes, but more so that it can just be applied to absolutely anything. There's obviously the trend right now that AI is hot, and then the logical thing for most people is just like, cool, like how can we, apply AI in this? And a lot of the times that's not the case. Like ultimately, there has to be a true problem to solve for which AI can help. And there's a process of like kind of discovering, what can actually be helped. I'd love to hear other thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree on this. I mean, literally, you have many discussions with customers, startups, companies, investors, whomever, and sometimes just randomly out of the discussion it came, could we do something with AI in it? So it's just randomly dropping in, and even if it's just a simple data analytics, which has nothing to do with AI, just aggregating data, it's AI, it's building a dashboard. No, it's not AI. So, but it's like used as a buzzword, and I mean, many companies, also one of my companies, which I founded a year ago, is using, of course, the top-level domain AI because it's just selling better because people want to have this tick in the selling list to say, is it also covering AI? It is. Okay, thanks. And it's like having the first step of checking from the procurement side as well, whether it's like state of the art. So it's a bit like a buzzword bingo game, but that's always in sales, right?
Buzzword and boring, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I super agree with that. Another interesting one is the current trend, especially LinkedIn posts and everyone talking about the fact that AI is going to replace humans, but specifically the developers. And for me, that's like, no, I mean, AI is just going to make the gap so much wider. Like the top percentile is going to get much better and the worst is going to get even worse. But yeah, I mean, that's another one of those cases, I guess.
Yeah, to that point, I mean, Anthropic is currently hiring software engineers, right? And they actively promote this, so it's an interesting. I think to get another perspective, and one thing you hear maybe more in the non-techie spaces, AI will take over the world and is it self-aware, right? And all these discussion around it has emotions. It's like, no. At the end of the day, it's an algorithm that has no emotions or is really thinking as we think of it in terms of humans.
Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. And we are at the first section. I would like to talk about how to get from 0 to something, how to get it all started. So if you start at the beginning, where all great startups begin, you start with an idea, a spark, or sometimes a painful problem that just won't go away, right? So how to start, of course, with an elevator pitch. So we should not miss that part here as well. It is this short moment where you are in an elevator with a handful of investors. Imagine that you see your opportunity and you know you have only 2 minutes for winning their attention and staying in their minds for the rest of their lives. Hopefully, gosh, not a nightmare? Hopefully not. So, Mario, Kashyap, you both have 2 minutes. I would like to start with Kashyap first. Convince us in 2 minutes about your idea. I have my smartphone ready, so I will tell you 10 seconds before the time ends, okay?
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Start.
Awesome. So D2C and e-commerce companies spend billions of dollars a year on testing ads. And a lot of these experimentation budgets, unfortunately, end up either not getting used or used in the wrong areas. In talking to a ton of different marketing leaders, we realized there was a problem here. And so we decided to solve it with Bezel. And what Bezel is AI simulated personas that companies can test their ads and creatives on before they actually run them. So, okay, I thought it was a question. So yeah, that's what Bezel is. And so we work with e-commerce companies to help them understand their customers and help them create the ad campaigns that would actually resonate with their target customers. In doing so, they can go to market with campaigns a lot faster and save a ton of money in the process. That's my pitch.
Wow, impressive. 1 minute, 10 seconds. Left. Okay, this is cool. So it will probably just taking to the second floor or something like that, and you're done. Okay, fantastic.
2 minutes is too long sometimes.
So you're okay, got it. So just for the people who are just joining at the moment, we heard the first elevator pitch from Kashyap. I saw one question, someone asking, can we ask questions? Yes, of course you can ask questions, but for probably missed it at the end of the session today, it's better so we just can keep the flow here. Thank you. Just put down a note for your questions and we will answer that afterwards. So Kashyap, thank you. So if you like to comment on his pitch, use the chat and we will watch the chat out as well. Mario, hey, now it's your turn. I'm the investor, as you can imagine.
I mean, I wasn't really coming for an investor pitch, but I'll give you what we do.
An audience pitch, it's fine. You're pitching me 2 minutes and just convince me about your product.
I'll just pitch to you out of my heart, Steffen. Thank you for organizing this panel. So yeah, everyone, I'm Mario, co-founder of Optiverse. We're a Zurich-based startup. And we're basically revolutionizing meetings and boosting our users' productivity with an agentic meeting assistant. So I'm sure many here are familiar with the problem that we solve. So we all have full calendars with back-to-back meetings and basically no time to breathe in between, document notes into CRM systems, or like fill in tasks into our task managers or follow up on all the tasks. And we have these back-to-back calls. So that's basically what we solve with Optiverse. We allow our users to completely focus on their interactions, knowing that every task is taken care of and directly out of the conversations. So our software transcribes and summarizes meetings and phone calls, automatically enriching CRM systems, adding tasks into task managers, drafting the follow-up emails based on the discussion, scheduling the next calls, and basically executing on all those nasty tasks that we have to deal with so we can focus on what truly matters, conversations, and preparing for the next call. So we've basically started building this at the end of 2023. launched a beta for 6 months, and this year released and already implemented in 300 companies in Switzerland. And I'm happy to share the transcript meeting and access to a chatbot of this webinar afterwards, as we discussed with Steffen. So no worries about taking notes or anything here. You can just listen in this conversation.
That's cool. I'm going to send the summary afterwards via the distribution channel. That's fine. You're done as well, right? Mario, also in time. Perfect.
Okay.
You two drive me crazy. That's unusual. I can't even see you sweating. So tell me, how did you feel the pressure? 2 minutes talking about your product. Is it easy? Is it hard? Do you train in front of a mirror or something like that?
I mean, when you're building something and like you're fully committed to it, it just comes natural. Like I literally didn't train. I came out of a customer call to this one. So
Okay.
I mean, when you're doing something like for more than a year straight and you really know every corner of it, I guess like you eventually own it. So yeah.
Okay. And in your case, Kashyap?
Yeah, I think echo a lot of Mario's points there. When you talk to your customers all day and you kind of know what problems they're facing, you kind of become the customer, and so you just know how to like speak of the product and the problem, and so that's just where it comes from.
So it's still a kind of iteration process, right? So iterating through each talk. Okay, that's nice. Thank you. So in this part of our episode today, we're looking deeper into the starting point, starting phase. If you look back, what's the story behind your startup idea? What was the kind of a light bulb moment?
Yeah. So for us at Bezel, when looking into this whole marketing space, we had an inkling that this problem existed. But previously at my other startup that I worked at, Build, we had seen that we were spending a lot on these ad budgets and figuring out the right personas. So to get a deeper understanding of it, we just talked to a ton of marketing leaders, and that was just like 50 calls, just like nonstop, trying to understand like what the true problem is. And then from there, building the product around it. So we had sort of a thesis on, what the actual problem is, using that as a reason to talk to potential customers, and then from there, build the actual product.
Mario?
For us, it's a completely different story. I mean, we're three co-founders. There's me, Elio, and Rafael. Elio and Rafael are the more techie guys. They were both in the same lab in MIT, Boston. That's where they met, and that's where our tech kind of got started. Back then, I was in Thailand, and we all just kind of teamed up in Zurich. And Kashyap did it the right way. He talked to his customers. We didn't. So we just started building a tech. We thought we were going to replicate YouTube at first and created the first two-video summarization engine, and just went on a complete madness, techiness, let's say, journey until we realized that, okay, no, you should have kind of talked to your customers first, and then had to pivot in June. And that was completely based on customer feedback. So that was kind of a big learning there. Listen to the market and just don't decide that you know it all. And from there, we really worked closely with our customers and went on a 6 months beta and were onboarding people there, iteration loops, really talking and maximizing the value of the product until we got to a phase where this was ready and it was already adding enough value, and then we were able to get out with it.
So this was also your way of validating the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And in your case, Kashyap, how do you validate the idea?
I mean, that's exactly it, right? Like talking to the customers. You are not the buyer of your product, and therefore you don't know sort of what you need to give them, right? And in that case, it's just like talking to those customers and understanding what they truly want.
Nice. Both of you, because I heard pivoting here as a word, how do you see the role of pivoting, and what attitude should startups founders have?
Yeah. So for us also, we had a major pivot. We were working on something entirely different before. And after a certain amount of time, we just realized like, okay, we understand that this market will be fulfilled by this specific product. We were building voice AI for banks. And For us specifically, we just realized that that was not a particular space we wanted to play in, and really have to think of it on like a many years horizon, right? So, you know, if things go the way they are and we're in this for a decade, are we happy doing this? And the question for us was like, really, no. What we wanted to do was lean into a space that we were more in tune with, which was tech, and be in a network where we can tap into people a lot better. And so through that, that's how we realized we needed to pivot. And so we did a hard pivot to this marketing industry.
Well, Dennis, it would be interesting for me from your side as an investor. So you have accompanied, I guess, a lot of startups already. What's your experience with pivoting? Is it just the normal thing that happens, or just the shit that happens?
Both. Actually, it's both. It depends on the perspective. So literally, I'm a founder as well. So I'm looking always on both sides. Literally, I would say pivoting is something which is totally normal. And I mean, it would be a super good guess if you directly know what market are you in. I mean, if I founded the first company, we created a marketplace for mediating temporary employment, and it ended up in an HR software. So literally, yes, of course, there's a similar buyer space, but that's the only connection point. The one thing is a marketplace, the other one is a software, like a SaaS subscription service. And still, if you are already into one vertical or one product, one solution, still you're pivoting like on a daily basis in the first, like, let's say 24 months, because you're feeling, okay, oh, this feature is a hot feature. And then you validate it with 10 customers and all say, no, we don't need it. So you go into the next one. That's also the reason why you should not build the full-fledged product and start with an MVP. That's always a recommendation, to really start super lean, super small, especially with AI help. You can do this nowadays super fast. And then you have to validate and iterate all the time. It's like a bit of trial and error in the beginning. And this trial and error is super healthy, because otherwise you don't know what your vertical is, or you would have to start directly knowing where you have to go to.
Brings me back to another question. You know, that of the eternal student, one who starts studying until he's a senior, right? So if you think about starting from idea to MVP to getting first customers, first traction, tell me, how long does it take? It takes months, weeks, years? What's your experience?
Yeah, I can answer this. The beautiful thing is my co-founder and I are both technical. And so we can just rapidly prototype MVP any feature or product within a couple of days at like the max. And I think that's really good for any, especially early team, to just get like moving really fast. I think unless you're building some really deep tech or like hardware problem that, you know, requires actual R&D multiple years, there's no reason to spend that long doing that. And that's something that I had from a lesson from a previous startup that I had, where I, you know, built for like 6 months, fine-tuned every little nook and cranny of it. And then after that, I started looking for, okay, like who's going to use this? And it was no one. So on those experiences, it's very much like prototype as fast as possible, just get it in the hands, see if they want to use it, see if they can use it. And if not, like, what is of value?
Mario? What's your take?
So I mean, so for us, we literally had to go through a beta. That was the way to do it. I mean, exactly. I can only add on what was just said. Like, we had this 6 months, let's say, MVP phase, where every week the whole MVP would change, and we were just inviting people to just proof test this, increase usage, and just keep breaking this. In our case, we're 3 co-founders. I'm the more customer facing, let's say. My 2 co-founders are more techy, and then this combination of gathering feedback and just building on top of it is really crucial to nail it right, in my opinion. So, and there's no limit, let's say, to how long this can take. It really depends on the direction you go into until you find this final fit and you just finally settle on it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's a very important point. I mean, there is no right timeline for this. It's a miracle if it takes less than half a year for me, but it's totally normal if it takes 24 months. So this is nothing unusual. It depends, of course, on your product, but if you have like an average ARR of, I don't know, 20K or so, you will not sell in the first 6 months. It would be a miracle. Maybe you have one customer, but you don't have like a bunch of it, because otherwise everybody would do it. It's super complex in the beginning, and you have to have like the resistance and all the resilience both to work on the product continuously for 2 years. And then you can switch mode and then have hopefully 1 million of AR, which is already a lot after 2 years. So also expectations in the markets are sometimes a bit crazy.
Speaking reality today in these markets at the moment, Dennis, if you say the first revenue, what would you think is currently the milestone? When should startups achieve the first revenues?
It's a very good question. So in my view, it should be like in the first 12 months, you should have maybe some projects, must not be revenues, must not be recurring revenues, could be just consulting things where you just analyze the project deeper, and you should you should be willing to get your hands literally dirty in the operational processes. So just not it's not always easy. I sell my product and then I'm done. So I think this period is very important, and I think for me a milestone is always 24 months. If after 24 months you don't have any sustainable revenue, and any 6-digit ARR is a sustainable revenue for a small company. I mean, if we look backward 30, 40 years ago, an entrepreneur, when he had like after 2 years a business, a 6-digit revenue business, it was an amazing success story. And now with IT and with AI and all the stuff, we think it goes all so much faster. But still, you have to convince the clients, you have to build up trust, you have to fine tune the product. There's so much to do. You have also to find like the space between the founders, so they have to find their working mode, their operational working mode within the employee perspective, not only the founder perspective. So there's so much to do. I think 24 months is a good thing. After 24 months, you should be able to say, is this really something which has a market, and could this product be successful? And if not, just pivot.
Just pivot. Okay, so there should be kind of a mindset, which means you need to be ready for pivoting. What else? So coming back to my two entrepreneurs here, if you think about the first time, not today maybe, but the first time when you just started, how was your day like? Was it just like coffee and coffee and coffee and coffee, and sometimes 2-3 hours sleep, or how can we think of the first part of starting something?
Yeah, I guess I can go. Yeah, I mean, so we started working on the company in general when we both were working full time, and so that just meant like we were working, and then after we'd meet up and then just continue working on the new initiatives. And a lot of the times it was just like reaching out to people, building product. And so the days were, you know, like 6:30 a.m. until like 10, 11 at night. And then once we got into Y-Combinator, it was just that, but even more. And now we were just like solely focused on the project that we were working on. So it was just like literally like 8:30 a.m. until 11 p.m., 12 a.m. Every day. And I don't know if that's like fully sustainable, but you make massive strides when you think of literally nothing else and just do the thing all day. And so, yeah, I genuinely think like, maybe not to that level, but like some level of dedication is required, especially in the early days where you're just like fully focused on it and like think of pretty much nothing else but that. I'd love to hear what Mari's thoughts are.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, for us, it was like, first of all, we had decided that we would all relocate to a city. So I didn't live in Zurich before Optiverse. And so we all just came in together in Zurich and we just started fresh, just building this company. And I mean, in the early days, especially pre-pivot for us, it was really just, there was first a lot of learnings, and it was still this time where we didn't really understand necessarily that it's not a marathon and it's a sprint. It's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. And so you would really just maybe almost burn out. We would just be working the whole day, buy microwave dishes, not spend a minute, just keep building like literally in the same workspace, day, night. I mean, I would clock in 8, we would leave like midnight. It was just really fully committed to the project, I guess. And then in the beginning you have this full drive and you're just sacrificing on your health and everything, but then eventually you need to find some balance as well to keep it up, I guess.
It's a good thing that I think you're still healthy looking in your faces, so it did not cost you everything. And then do you agree? No?
Yeah, I'm the oldest one in this group. So literally, I would guess, yeah, no, it's true. You have to be dedicated. This does not mean you have to work 16 hours. I generally don't believe in this in this myth. I mean, I come from strategy consulting, and there's a myth: longer working hours are better, and this is totally bullshit. I mean, it depends really how efficient you are, and you have to find an efficient way also managing your life. And if you don't manage your life, you are anyhow burning out after 12 months, whatever you do, or you're boring out if you don't enjoy what you're doing. So I personally think, yeah, it's not only about the working hours, it's more about the dedication. And with this, I agree fully with Kash. Like being dedicated on a project and really believing in it, then you can also like build things which are comparable to miracles. And when you just work 40 hours a week, but you have to work 40 hours really in a productive way.
Okay, the magic happens. But now we have a problem. So since you said the runway of financing something until you have it ready might be 24 months, you need to bridge it, right? So how did you get out of the pain point and stress point of having some money to make the living and survive a few months until maybe something is like money is coming in? How did you do that? Bootstrap it, ask your family to give some money. How did you do that?
I mean, some of us had already, in our case, saved up some things, and we were really lean on a personal level as well, not only on the startup level. That really helps. I mean, I just mentioned that we were literally on microwave dishes and just like really bootstrapping it in every way possible. Some of us were really were borrowing money from their family members and stuff in the first months, like when we really just got started. So I guess you just have to find a way to get going on an individual level and commit fully to that vision, and you'll just make it work, I guess.
Yeah, completely echo Mario here. For us, we were fortunate enough that we ended up getting into Y-Combinator before we left our jobs. And so that just meant that we could easily transition over and then be able to use the funding from what YC provided to float ourselves. But at the same time, we were ready pretty much within the next month or two, right around when YC accepted us, to go full time, and did have savings for it. It was just nice that that ended up happening.
Since you mentioned Y-Combinator, Dennis, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I think it's there's also no right or wrong answer. I mean, it depends also what you want to build. I mean, some people are happy with bootstrapping, others are happy to have investors on board. I personally, like, this is a very personal opinion, because I made the experience with a like 8-digit amount raised for a company. I would never ever again wanting to have investors on my cap table. Not any, but this is like the freedom of taking decisions as how I want to take them. But this is a very personal choice, but you pay for it with, you have to do consulting projects, you have to do freelance projects, you have to bridge it with whatever, or you have to bring in savings. But for this, you get more independence. Literally, it's a trade-off between both, and there's no right or wrong. And I think you just have to ask you what you want to do, and what you're really comfortable with. And if you're going the investors track, there's nothing wrong with it. But I would never do it again, like personally.
Thanks for sharing that. I see one question which might be a good fit, and also I said questions at the end, but let's ask that. It is from Vivek. Is this kind of incentives of a location something which would drive you to move somewhere else? Because you say, okay, the government, the city, or whatever is helping startups better than other places. Is that something which is interesting or key point in the decision making?
Yeah, I think this is like extremely key. In just my personal opinion, I moved from a city that was pretty much just like farmland and incredible quality of life, but ultimately zero startup scene. And I realized very early on that if I want to build something successful and grow it, I just need to be surrounded by like-minded people. And that meant putting myself in a place where things are happening. And so for me, that is New York. But I fundamentally believe if you're able to surround yourself with people that are on the same mission, same grind, be it whatever journeys that they're on, that is kind of fuel that makes things possible, right? You're no longer thinking that, oh, I think I can do this. Like, you see them doing it. You're like, I know I can do this now. It's just a matter of doing it. So I think you are a product of your place and your surroundings, and location is like a massive factor.
For us, it was more of a strategic decision too. I mean, we all had been living in Switzerland on and off for 8 years, and Zurich, I mean, based on Europe, in my opinion, Zurich is the best place to build a startup, talent-wise, connection-wise, just everything-wise. I mean, we only hire from ETH. You literally have the smartest engineers in the continent that are in one place, that are really fighting to go to that one school, and it's just it would be stupid not to take advantage of that. And so there's many factors in play, but we just found it to be the ideal scene for us to relocate basically and get started.
It's interesting. Thanks for sharing your experience here. So I'm a startup myself, and I found it equally interesting that if you have a vibrant community around you, it's more competitive in some ways. It pushes you forward to, I want to make it, I want to get things done. So I think it's a similar experience. So since you mentioned the Y-Combinator, Kashyap, what did YC change for you beyond the possible funding? What's something unexpected that helps you most from the program?
Yeah, I mean, it ties literally back to what I just mentioned, but it's the community. What you realize is like there's a ton of people that are very early on in their startup journey. Many are coming in with just ideas like we had, and you just realize like it's a very cracked community of builders and engineers and salespeople, whatever it is. Everyone's committed to this mission, and everything seems very, very doable when you look at the caliber of people that are building, starting companies, and whatever progress that they've made through the batch. So community is a massive, massive part of it. And I think that the network aspect has a lot of fruit to bear down the road as well.
Thank you. That was interesting. Let's go back to the questions which are left for me. You both are not single entrepreneurs. You have partners. You have co-founders. So of course, an interesting part would be what role does that play in getting things done? So what's the one thing that keeps your co-founder relationship strong?
So do you want to go or do I?
Whoever likes to start.
So in my case, it's a very niche, let's say, setup. One of my co-founders is my brother, actually. So we're 3 co-founders. Elio is my brother. Rafael is also a friend. And just working with your brother is a completely different game, in my opinion. It just puts the stakes much higher. It makes everything much more like to the point. From day one, you have like this instant, let's say, connection and just trust. And we also happen to cover different areas. So that has definitely played a big role in just being together in this journey. And the fact that you're committing to a co-founder makes it that it's like you're working towards the same vision, you have the same level of ambition, and that alone is already enough to keep the ties, even though it can really get tough some days. And when you're working with the same person 40 hours or more a week, it can get tough, things can escalate, but for sure, this same commitment, I would say, is what keeps it going.
Yeah, completely echo that. The commitment to each other is like the massive thing here, and that commitment is just like you're gonna work through the hard things, and you're also gonna celebrate the wins. And I think that's a massive yin yang, because I've worked on things previously solo, and like, sure, like when things are going great, it's like, yeah, this is great. But after a certain point, you want to share that with someone. And at the same time, when things are not going great, it's really hard to like, push that boulder up a hill alone. And so my co-founder Palash has been incredible in just like, keeping each other accountable, pushing each other to, a new level. And I think when you feel challenged by your co-founder to like do more, push faster, that is a really, really great relationship. So yeah, and I think just like talking through whatever, goals, objectives, stresses, that's like a massive, massive factor in keeping a strong relationship.
That would be interesting to hear the investor side of that story as well. Dennis, if you think about the team sizes you have been confronted with, what do you think is a good team size? What's the role of a single entrepreneur? Is it something you pursue, or say, no, it needs to be at least 2? What's the best number for roles should be covered?
It's a good question. I mean, it depends on the people, right? So single founders, I mean, I was a single founder for close to a decade, and I mean, this is a hell of a ride because you literally have no holiday. And I mean, this is really meaning like 10 years without any holiday is not healthy. So having this said, I'm not convinced if you want to build something bigger, like if you want to build something very niche, it can work. But if you want to build something bigger, you should have like a partner because you need also some feedback. You need sometimes also just digest, and you need sometimes just like a small break, especially over a longer period of time. But I think there's no ideal founder set because it depends also on the competences that you need. If it's really like a deep tech product, you need most likely 2 tech founders and 1 commercial guy. If it's like a standard SaaS product using some tech, you need a good CTO and a good commercial person. But it depends a bit on the complexity of your product and on the complexity of your market and the competition and so on. I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's more important is like, for me, mindset, values, what they want to achieve, why are they doing it? So why are they literally trying to build this company? This is much more interesting. And if one person has the right answer, it's better than 2 people just pretending to show some values which the investors like.
Okay, what is the right answer?
There is no right answer. That's a good thing. So literally, as in normal like job recruiting interviews, there is no right answer. It's more important how you approach a problem. And this is something, if you pitch, I mean, sometimes you have a pitch and you think, oh, this cannot be successful at all. But you believe in the founder team. So, and they will figure out because actually version 0 is never successful. The core idea is I've never seen this in no company.
So no one should get frustrated because the first baby is not the one who survives, right? Okay. Bring me back to one question in that starting phase again. How did you win your first customer? Was it just like offering free beer, or is it just like, hey, we do something great together? How did you get them join you?
Yeah, I think that process is a lot of trust. So for us, we were very candid, like, hey, this is a very early product. We are a very early team working on this. Really, like, if you're willing to work with us to build this out for you, what you get is a really bespoke product, a really bespoke experience, and pretty much a product that not a lot of other people will get because it's going to be generalized at some point. So we are committing very much to building this for you, and obviously doing it at a certain discount as well to be able to work together. And I think that's like a solid way of building trust rapport with those early customers. The design partner route is also very strong.
Interesting. For us, we went through this phase where we're still building our product, but we did do some consulting, some, let's say, separate but targeted towards our ICP type of consulting, where we would help with some sort of automations, which also helped us keep the operation funded while we were building. And so that helped build some relations with people that eventually became our customers. And also we had this 6 months beta where we would basically invite anyone to just come and proof test the product. I know it's not the best advice to say, hey, offer your thing for free, but for us it worked. We were able to convert just people to users and then users to customers. And I mean, we literally went after just literally student clubs or anyone that we thought could help us just proof test this and even build it and give us the right network to distribute it. But also in our case, it's an agentic meeting assistant. So it has this organic and exposure factor. You do want some champions using it that will kind of promote it for you. So like, I think our first beta was literally with Start Global, the student team in St. Gallen. That was literally where we started, I think. And from there, out of their network, we kind of started growing.
So do you have some growth hacker in your team?
I am the, let's say, go-to-market oriented co-founder out of the 3.
Okay, thank you. So let's go into the second phase of what's building smart with AI, what works at scale. This is the thing I would be interested in. David, yeah, I let you listen for all the time until now. So it's time for you, of course. You're now ready for a reality check. That's what I'm aiming to. So we've heard how startups are building with AI, but what happens when those models hit the real world? That's an open question. To answer that, we are turning to someone who works at the intersection of cutting-edge R&D. I'm introducing David again. He's from SaaS Applied AI and Modeling Division, and he has, of course, a unique perspective. He sees it from the customer side as well. He sees which AI trends are actually delivering value, which ones are still stuck in the lab somehow, and what's coming next, and that could give you an edge. Let's zoom out a bit and see what works at scale. David, now your turn. You're working at the intersection of R&D and enterprise AI. What's one AI trend that's real and one that's mostly hype?
Yeah. So my kind of perspective is that we kind of act as intrapreneurs, right? We don't found our own company. We just work within an existing company, but build our own standalone products that people can consume. And while agentic AI is real, I think the big issue with this hype is that it's not well defined. And we are back to this, it's from an if statement to real self-acting agents that are out in the world solving problem. You see the full spectrum. And that is something when you are in that space and you are a deep tech person and you are working on this trend, make sure that your product is real, right? And that it's not just a rebrand of PyTorch or whatever, just with an LLM slapped on top of it. That's not what agentic AI really means.
Are there emerging techniques? I think you mentioned already some architectures or models that startups should actually be paying attention to right now.
If we stay in that kind of agentic space, the clear winner right now is the MCP, which was released by Anthropic end of last year, was adopted by OpenAI yesterday, and kind of gives everybody an equal playing ground. It's a protocol on how to connect different LLMs and agents together to make them do work at the end of the day. And there you can just build now on kind of emerging industry standard to move faster.
Thank you.
And pivot more often, right? That's the beauty of these types of standards.
So pivoting again plays a crucial role. It's again a mindset you need to have. It's not, this is my work, I do it until the end of my life. It's more like how do we need to change because the market says you have to. What separates AI that works in a lab from AI that works in the field?
The sadly true answer is the customer, right?
Yes.
And thinking from the customer, we can build the greatest models in the world. If an end user doesn't understand what value it provides and how they can use it and integrate in their processes, we might as well not have built it. And that's hard to hear someone as like me, who is deeply technical, who just could go off and build stuff all day long. But if you don't think backwards from what's the actual problem you're solving and how can I communicate that I am solving it, then the greatest tech won't really land with your customers.
Yeah. So since I was interested in the reality check, and I would like to, David and Dennis, for both of you again. So because Kashyap, who is also part of the audience here, asked a similar question I would like to ask at the moment. So what are the most profitable niches to apply AI? So in other words, our subject of today is how to make money with AI, right? And imagine you two would start from scratch. What kind of AI trends do you see which are more likely, more interesting? If someone says, I would like to start with something, I'm really techie, what should be something you should start with?
If you have a business background, I would always start from there because you're probably aware of some pain point that you have encountered in your own life, and then kind of think about what would you buy to solve that problem for you. And one of that pieces might be if you are overwhelmed with AI, then maybe you are not alone, right? I think all are a bit overwhelmed. maybe that's a space to explore.
Okay.
No, I agree. I mean, generally, the finding is, and not putting like there's someone more important than the other one, but I think generally, if you start about new business opportunities, you should always come from the commercial side, and you should have someone on the technical side who is honestly advising you whether it's how to build. And this can be with or without AI. Honestly, from a commercial side, you should not even like care about it, because yes, you can put your AI on the website, but honestly, I don't care. I mean, if I build now the new sales tech, which we are doing with Bond, we don't care. I mean, our CTO is so strong, he just selects the right technology for the solution that we want to build. And I think this is the right mindset, because, and that's also reflecting to what I said, because of the founder setup. I mean, sometimes you have this in one person, but rarely happening. But normally you need some people who have understanding of the commercial needs, and someone who can build solutions for it. And this solution builder can be with AI or without AI. But I think there's no sense in asking, what kind of business can I build with AI? I can build just a business, and then AI can be a good help, for sure. For sure, you can use it. And I mean, there are hundreds of use cases where I can think of, but I think you should not start from the technical side. It's like, why should you ask the question, should we make money with SQL query? Yes, you can, for sure. There's for sure something, but honestly, it's a solution to a problem, and you have to come from the problem, and then the technical side will figure out a solution.
How many times do you see the opposite? People starting with a tech and trying to make business out of it. Mario. Yeah.
I was saying pre-pivot, we're one of those examples. Don't do that.
Okay. Yes, it's quite a typical problem, isn't it? That most people have think there's cool tech, we need to do something with that, trying to test and make it fit to something, or make the market fit to the tech, let's say that. And you, actually, if I summarize what you have said here altogether, is start with finding the problem first. What is the problem you really want to solve? The tech is second. The tech is something you need to think of. How can I actually make it happen? So you have the idea of the problem to solve, you do the feasibility part, checking if a tech is available to do that. And then you can start building it, right? You agree with that kind of advice? Good. So since we have David, do we have a application in real life of MCP?
Well, I think most of the things that I see and I also build to try out the tech, it's kind of personal, what I like to call like a Twitter demo level tech thing. I don't think the tech is still too new that we have like real products built on top of that, at least as far as I have seen. But kind of gauging from that interest and from my own personal tests, it has a lot of promise.
Okay. So since I asked David and Dennis about the trends which might shape the future and might be interesting, Mario, Kashyap, of course, I would be interested in what kind of trends do you see which are exciting, maybe even affecting your business idea?
I mean, in our case, I can talk about that because we're not even done building our product. Like our agentic meeting assistant is one arm of our business, and we do have an ultimate vision to build an agentic task manager that connects to meetings as only one part of the process, but all other communication channels like emails, Slack, Teams, everything that happens where in a company people exchange, and eventually have one brain that centralizes this whole operation and acts as a company's first project manager hire, let's say. So it's a reality for us. We're driving towards that. We have a first arm of the business that we can go to market with, and we're fully still building, still talking to our customers, and still finding these problems to work out of and build that agentic project manager that we're planning at the moment.
So you say we stick with what we need to do at the moment, and I mean the agentic thing is anyway the talk in town at the moment, right? Kashyap, what about you?
Do you mind repeating your question?
Yes, sure. If you think about the trends, what kind of favorite trends do you see in AI which might even influence or shape your business and your business idea?
Yeah. It's more at the infrastructure layer, but we're seeing that at a high level. You're not able to just like give a certain agent by an LLM like one large set of instructions and let it go through, you know, all and do all of it, right? And what we're seeing is like multi-step or multi-stage agents that are able to do it, and they kind of emulate a true human's behavior. They might work on a specific task and pass it over to a next agent and then be able to do it. And I think that's an extremely powerful tool, because now you're no longer constrained to just this like one sort of one and done approach, where instead now you can really focus on creating really efficient sort of processes where there could be a human in a loop, where there could be some sort of intervention if required. And that is really powerful. So we're definitely seeing how we can leverage that. But I think that will just be really powerful in general for a lot of businesses.
Oh, interesting. So we're now in the last section. You've got the idea. We know the trends. We know how we would like to do the things. You're building the product. Now comes the big question: will anyone fund it? Of course, we also ask, will anyone pay for it? But now we would like to ask, will anyone fund it? Dennis, you can imagine what's happening at next, right? So let's dig into how investors actually think, what makes them lean in, what turns them off, and what early stage founders often get wrong about fundraising. So happy to have Dennis, you heard him already, on board, who sees pitches all day, every day, knows exactly what separates a maybe from a yes. Dennis.
And a no. So there's also lots of clear no's, to be honest. I mean, what I mean is generally, if you see pitch decks,
Yes.
most of them are really not answering all the questions. And I mean, the core question, if I read it, I sometimes say, what are they doing? And I mean, you have like an attention span of an investor, especially if you get to institutional ones like VCs, of 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. So, and if you're not explaining your problem well, I ask myself, first question is, how can you pitch to customers? Because if you cannot explain it to investors, where you should put more effort in, hopefully, then into customers, you will not be able to pitch to customers. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, if I get the problem, if I get the problem statement, then I really often see that traction and expectation are really like a big, like say, mismatch. So you have people who are saying I had an example, they had 20K, I think, of ARR and asked for 8 million valuation. And then I'm saying, why? Just why? So what is the reasoning? You're superhumans, or I mean, and they did it for 2 years, and I understand it's sometimes complex and it takes ages. I all understand this because I did this. But why? So what's the justification? Why should someone put in money for 8 million valuation and gets out most likely nothing, because this company will not be worth 8 million in the next 12 to 24 months. So valuation is a thing. And third, you have no clue which kind of investors you want to have. I mean, nobody, hopefully, wants to have an investor that just brings money, because investors can provide more, like commercial expertise, technical expertise, network, customers, whatever. So, and you should be able to answer this. So, and that sometimes you feel it's like random outreach. I send to 100 potential investors the same pitch deck. If you do this with customers, the question is, how can you be successful? So it's more like how you approach, how you explain your product, what kind of expectation do you have? And if this is well funded, this happens 1 out of 100, maybe. So that you really talk to the guys. The rest of the pitch decks are really not worth it. And you invest so much time in it, and I don't get it why you invest so much time in having a standard approach. Because if you invest the time, then do it tailor-made and speak to the people. And there are events where you can approach people and just talk about it. And that's also a recommendation of myself. Don't just send randomly PowerPoint decks. Look for people that you can relate with, because literally you are married to those people. That's very important. I mean, it's easier to get divorced in private life than get an investor rid of your cap table. That's simply impossible. They will take your company if you're not successful. Just to be very frank, I mean, it depends on the size and the stake and everything, but this is bigger than a marriage for me. like in terms of not more important, but it's more influencing in terms of your relationship to the people. And that's the reason why I say you should invest. If you go for external money, think a lot about whom you want to have on board. I mean, you think also whom you are going to marry, hopefully. And if you do this, some people don't. So, but if you do this, then you will also find the right investor that really fits to your problem. Then you will have also not operational issues, in my understanding.
I think we all probably have some good and some bad examples in mind with a startup entrepreneur and VC or investor relationship. What do you think? Should someone look as a startup founder, finding the right investor? What did you do? You mean you're entrepreneur yourself?
It's a complex one. That's really a complex one, I think. I think there's no right or wrong. I mean, if you look on both perspectives, literally, it's like I still believe it's a very, very, very human thing. You're bringing two parties together, even if it's institutional investors you're talking about. I mean, the VCs consist of 10 people. Like they are not huge companies. So it's more like a human connection, and you should just search for this human connection, and there's no right or wrong. That's the reason why I have no direct answer to this question. It's a bit complex to say what you can do right or wrong, or what is good or what is bad. So I think generally it's a bit complex to say, but I think really don't look only on the numbers, majorly look on the personality. This is for me more crucial. Accept the lower valuation when you really match with the people.
Going back to the questions you have when you start a business, sometimes entrepreneurs find themselves stuck in the discussion of, does it make sense for me? Do I lose control? Well, too much shares I need to give away, and having an investor on board. Do you think there are some ideas for entrepreneurs which should not get funded by VCs because it's not a VC topic or subject? Is there something like a rule for that? Not this one here. This is not the business. We look for much more money. Or what do you think?
Good question. I think generally it depends really more on what you want to build. I mean, some people I know who want to build like a $2 million business and then live out of the dividend or sell it. So then go for bootstrapping most likely. If you want to build it within 5 years a unicorn, which is crazy, but if you want to do this, you need funding. You will not get there without money, with outside some exceptions, of course. There are always exceptions, but in the standard business case, it will not be. And it depends not on the market. It more depends on your ambition and your view on the business and how you want to work, how you want to live. It has lots of influences if you have external people on the cap table. Even if you have a wrong co-founder, you have an issue. I mean, I experienced this. If you have you're stuck with the people. You have to find a solution.
Mm-hmm. So asking my two entrepreneurs here, if you think about the first pitch with investors, how did you prepare for your first one? Was it watching 1,000 YouTube videos of how to do that? Was it about reading 1,000 articles of do's and don'ts? How did you do that?
Yeah, for us, our first couple were very informal. So ultimately, at the stage that we were at, we knew and they knew that they were investing in us, and that just means that we had to be our most authentic selves, and show that this is truly what we're born to do. And this is like not a lie. Like I truly feel like I'm put on this earth to build companies, and really just talking about like who we are, what's our stories, and so the element of practicing was just genuinely like talking to friends, talking to other entrepreneurs in the space that I know personally, and kind of understanding what their experiences were like. But ultimately, it's just crafting a really, really strong and compelling narrative of like why you are doing the thing that you're doing and why you're committed to it as well. At least early on, and then later on, it's more just a lot of practice pitches with other fellow founders.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say also in the beginning, super early days, we would sit together with my co-founders and just train a bit. I mean, people here, I guess, are familiar with the Swiss ecosystem. So I think the first time we ever trained for a pitch was Venture Kick Stage 1. That was, I think, really the first time. And since then, we proceeded to get all 3 stages. That was something cool. And then we also raised a few tickets here and there from incubators, angels. And I personally don't really recall a time where I had to properly pitch to an investor. And our first angel literally closed out of a sales call. He made an intro, he joined in, he saw how this went, and at the end he was like, I'm in. And that's kind of how our first angel investor was closed. So maybe that's a bit random, but also right now we're 3 co-founders, and we kind of distributed the roles in a way where I focus on business, Ilio, my co-founder and the CEO of Optiverse, is focusing on talking to investors, and Rafael is really on the tech. So I guess that also explains a bit here.
Yeah. If you think about the type of slides you usually put into it, kind of pitch deck, is it, and Dennis, I would like to hear your opinion as well here, is how important are the market research figures, like addressable market and such things, if everyone believes, especially in the beginning, this thing is going to pivot anyway. So how important is it? One thing. The same thing, competing against the story. So how much important is the storytelling of the whole thing, and not so much the data part?
Yeah. So I think the market sizing is, of course, somehow important. I mean, if you have a market where you have only 5 companies or 5 customers in, it's a bit difficult to build up a business. But honestly, no investor cares whether it's a market of 40 billion or 20 billion because it's big. So there are markets which are big, which are middle, which are small, or which are too tiny. So, but it's not really I mean, I see so many calculations that people invest in the tam zam zom thing, which I find a bit useless, because just prove it's a general market need, or there is a market. Just prove that there's a market, that you have thousands or 100,000 or millions of potential customers. Enough. That's enough. You just need to justify that's working. And the second, and for me, much more important metric is, how much do you need to spend for an individual new customer? So customer acquisition cost. If the customer acquisition costs are 2K and you have, like, let's say, an average revenue per customer of 500 francs or euros, this will not work. So the more the relation between average revenue and customer acquisition cost is crucial. And if you can prove in the early days, look, I need 250 francs, is a good realistic example. 250 francs for getting a new customer, and they spend, I don't know, 1K. It sounds like a relation which is at least healthy, so which is not unhealthy. And this relation is much more important. And if you're measuring those KPIs, much more important for me than knowing whether it's 100,000 or 120,000 potential customers. Because honestly, I don't care.
Okay, so especially in the beginning, you would like more to understand the sales engine. So are you able to sell it, and at what costs, right? Okay, that's our learning. Okay, back to Mario and Kashyap. What's one thing about pitching to VCs that surprised you, which went unexpected? Do you have an anecdote from your early life, so to say?
The time fundraising takes, I would say. Like when we first started, like just if I knew what I know today, I would really just budget time where you would go deep diving 2 months straight, just focusing on fundraising. We're actually currently ongoing this process. 2 weeks ago, we opened a round, and we're right now getting the commits, and we're trying to get the lead and all these things, and just having this thing for instead of it taking 6 months, focusing it on 1 or 2 months would be actually something that is super useful. That there's your anecdote. And if I had to do it all over again, that's my learning of really having time only for that, I guess, and planning it properly.
Yeah, really good points. I think like constraining it to a certain timeline is really important, because ultimately you need to focus on the business and growing that, and raising is really a deterrent to that, and you just need to like close the capital and continue. I think the other part that really surprised me is like the growth rates really matter. So ultimately, I think Dennis echoed a lot of this. Like companies are early, they might be pivoting. Market size is like one thing, but ultimately it's like, is the company growing in like the time that you started working this, from the last milestone to now? Like, have you made a difference? Have you grown? Like, what exactly is happening? VCs care a lot about that, so definitely index on it.
Thank you. So now we are in the last phase of and starting to go into a rapid phase. So it will be one question from my side, and you can say one word or one sentence as an answer. It's really just doing the circle. Everyone, one word, one sentence. Okay? So first question, biggest founder mistake you've made, or Dennis in your, David in your turn, biggest founder mistake you saw or experienced. David.
Who starts?
Mario, go on.
Okay. Building first.
Building first. Okay. Kashyap.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine as well.
Okay. Lucky person. Dennis.
Choosing the wrong investors.
David.
Pure tech focus.
Good. Second question. What is the one underrated startup tool you use constantly?
Loom is really good.
Okay.
I'll go.
Okay.
That's my answer.
Be with full love with your product.
Exactly. I use it every day.
Good. So, David.
Street interview. Just go out and talk to people.
Dennis?
Still a big fan of Slack. It's old-fashioned already, but
Yeah, it's coming to ages. Okay, pitch deck sin that makes you cringe. What is the pitch deck sin?
valuation too high.
When I see someone pitching with a target of addressable market of, I don't know, 10 million to a VC.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and just too many graphics and not enough core numbers.
Good. David?
All the kind of meme-based jokes all throughout.
Good. The next question is pretty easy probably to answer, or you're just not ready to answer. How many hours of sleep do you actually have?
I
Yeah.
try to, sorry, go ahead.
Mario?
All right. I try to average 12 per week.
Per week?
No, just kidding. I would say I try to keep it same, 7 to 8. It's a marathon.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I try also for 7.5. Don't always end up hitting it, but sleep's important.
Yes. Dennis?
I was missing out on this during the solo founder thing, so I had 4.5 or 5 on average. Now I'm at 6.5 to 7, so
More healthy.
back to healthy, yeah.
Okay, David?
Just checked. Apple Health was 7 hours last week on average. So
Okay, you can prove it by numbers. Perfect. What is the kind of startup myth that should die already? David, would you like to start this time?
that you can do it all alone.
Okay, Dennis?
Yeah, I would say the same, but yeah, it's still the startup lies a bit that everything goes super fast and easy, and like what you see on LinkedIn, all the success stories, and you can do it without work. Yes.
Okay, Kashyap?
You don't need funding to get started. Just get started.
Yeah.
Okay. The same, Mario?
I'd say that you can make it 100% without sales and fully product led. I mean, this is arguable maybe in the later stages, but I've seen so many founders stuck in this building loop and just not getting out of it and just going from product to the other without really selling. And so, yeah, like it's just a toxic mentality of you can be the next ChatGPT, I guess, and just go in your cave and build.
Good. What would be the dream collaboration? Anyone or just dead or alive? What is the team collaboration team? Kashyap, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to partner with some really massive creator-led companies like, Mr. Beast, KSI. That could be a pretty interesting collaboration.
Mario?
So I've actually been following that guy for a few weeks now. His name is Giulio Segantini. he's really famous in the sales community. Like he's wearing this yellow suit and recording himself cold calling, and I really like his content. So I feel like that would be it for me, and it's also really targeted to our ICP at the moment.
Dennis?
Yeah, I could mention him as well. I meet him next week. So yeah, he's a crazy guy. But I think anybody who is outstanding and going after his or her personal targets, like in this studio, as an example. So without overthinking.
David?
For me, it's someone who's that Claude Shannon, who's kind of a like true visionary when it comes to all computer science and information theory. Kind of, I'm sure we could build something great together.
So the last one in our rapid fire prompt session, you have 10 million marketing stunt to go viral. What would you do? Dennis?
Complex questions. Hello.
Yeah.
10 million to go viral. It depends a bit on the product, but literally I would ensure that I have enough positive customers in the product sphere so that I have success stories and buy the customers literally with for free licenses and perfect onboarding or experience.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's not an easy question if you're looking for a stunt answer. But I mean, in reality, if I had the 10 mil, I would just go after my 25 ideas all cost efficiently and hit it somewhere. But for you here, I'll say I'll pay 1K person to run in the World Cup final soccer match with the merchandise of Optiverse.
David? 10 million.
I design a challenge and promote it for 1 million on Twitter, and 9 million is the prize pool. That sure gets some tweets.
Okay, Kashyap?
I'd probably rent like 10,000 Cybertrucks and just shut down an entire avenue in New York with our branding all over them. And
Okay.
traffic jams already cause a stir, and then if it's literally one type of car and branding, I think it could do well. That's a start.
Cool, thank you. So that was a rapid fire chat. I saw one question which I would not like to leave here. Dennis, I would like to get an answer from you in this case. What if you like to start a business but you have kids? Have you seen that working?
Yeah, I have 2 kids. So yes, no, it is definitely
Vivek,
working. I
good
mean,
news.
yeah,
Yes, 2
yeah.
kids.
No, literally, it depends, as I said, so on your life organization. I think you can do everything, even if you're doing some things part-time in the beginning. This does not mean you're not dedicated to the project. Sometimes you need to get funds. Sometimes you need to take care of your kids. And this can be also like a source of energy. Some people are doing crazy sports. Some people have kids. Some people learn a new, I don't know, a new music instrument, whatever. So it depends. You cannot work 100% on your project, otherwise you burn out. And if kids is your source of energy, go for it. I can confirm. Sometimes very exhausting, especially 6 a.m. in the morning, but most of the time it's really bringing value to your own life. So it's really, and you even have sometimes thoughts from your kids where you think, if you just transfer their action to your business life, you see some things because kids think very easy. And this helps a lot because we are always overthinkers.
Looks, yeah, I think it sounds like you are an energizer, Dennis. Thank you.
I get energized.
You get energized, yeah. You have no chance to escape in this case. Okay, so my final question, since of course we would like to get the audience to take something with besides of all the things we already heard. I have one final question for all of you with one answer, basically. So if someone here in the audience is thinking about building with AI but feels overwhelmed, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
Can I go?
Yep.
Like, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes, but the only thing you're gonna regret is not having started earlier. So in my opinion, just start and you're gonna figure it all out and you're gonna get slaps in the face, but starting is the most important point, just fully committing, and then the rest figures itself out.
Yeah, I completely echo that. Momentum is everything. Getting started feels really tough. But the one thing you got to know is that no one is going to do it for you, right? So if you want to do it, it's on you. Just get started, no matter what little or large that step is.
Dennis?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, getting started is the most important, and especially if you're getting started, don't start with super high expectations on monetary outcomes. Start on expectations on the product, and focus on the product and the value, and don't think too much about the business case. This is also one of the mistakes I've seen. So yeah, they're building like an Excel sheet, which is like really Goldman Sachs savvy. But honestly, nobody needs it. What I need is a product, is a solution, is some USP, is value proposition, and all the things. And if you do this, you should focus on this and getting started and talk to the people that you want to sell to.
David, what's your take?
And don't sweat the tech stack too much, right? You will change it. That's the tech stack pivots as much as your idea does.
Oh yeah.
So
So thanks for this round. You have been really amazing guests, Dennis, Mario, Kashyap, and David. For the honesty, insights, and stories, I thank you a lot. If you're watching this and wondering, could I do this too? Remember, every founder starts with more questions than answers. The trick is to start anyway. Go build something weird, useful, and maybe even world-changing, and see you next time on our next episodes. Just one thing, I said, I'm closing that now, but you can stay here if you have a few more questions. I think my guest will stay here for a few more minutes, and we would be happy to answer. So thank you again. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever it is at your location. And I say bye for now. Thanks for being part of this.